Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this very special episode of Valley Society's Black Writers Read, where we'll take the opportunity to honor the work and life of children's book author, poet, memorialist, essayist, and activist Jamie A. Triplin, who passed away in November. She was scheduled to appear as our guest this month. In line with our mission, we wanted to still use this space to share her work, as her writing will always remain important and influential to the African diasporic literary canon. Valley Society is a writing and social group for Black writers located in the Pioneer Valley in Western Massachusetts. One of our programs is Black Writers Read, which showcases, celebrates, and honors the words, work, and traditions of Black writers from across the country, across genres, across experiences, and across the diaspora. Hosting a monthly episode on Facebook Live, previous guests include children's book authors, poets, fiction, and nonfiction writers. This gives you a sense of how far and wide of a reach Jamie had. Today, members of Valley Society will read from Jamie's work, celebrating her contributions as a poet, essayist, and activist. Her children's book, Malia the Mer Fairy and the Lucky Rainbow Cake, and her recently published memoir, Many Fixtures Crumbled, are available for purchase on Amazon. Some of us have been influenced by her work. Some of us were her closest friends, having known her for decades. Some of us were introduced to her by trusted confidants. We hope that for those who have not had an opportunity to read Jamie's work, to use this as an opportunity to further investigate her repertoire. For those who hold Jamie and her memory close to your hearts, we hope that this is an opportunity for you to continue celebrating all that she has given us: her friendship, her love, her support, her insight, and her wisdom. Saving the world since 1980, stirring the pot and providing receipts, I'd like to introduce to you Jamie through her own words. This is from her bio listed on Goodreads.com. I have always been fascinated with words, interactions, and the various modes in which we communicate with one another. As a child, I would lay in bed hearing my parents fight, and I would replay their scenarios, thinking about all the different outcomes one of them had altercations, their actions. These early years of observation helped me understand that the way we communicate with one another can make or break the outcome of that particular interaction. I believe that it is in part a part of my life's mission to use my gifts as a way to create effective change in individuals' lives and the greater community. Growing up in Western Pennsylvania was not easy as a mixed kid that self-identified as Black. I was routinely teased by white students about my dominant features. I'll never forget how a classmate in high school said, "You are the reason the evolution theory exists." Pair that with what I was dealing with in school and my abusive and traumatic home life. It took me a long time to grow into the confident young woman that I am today. I want to help children build their confidence as early in life as possible so they too can become strong and fearless when faced with racial and other adversities about being different. It is just as important to create content to teach white children how to treat people of color. I believe that earlier you plant and nurture the seeds, the greater the chance children will mirror the positivity that they are taught. I love to inspire, motivate, mentor, and encourage others. My life's adversities have always been used in a way to help others through their own turbulence. I don't have all the keys to life, but I do have the strength to climb the mountain and the voice to help others through their own pain. Eventually, I'd like to help others publish their works in order to tell their story. Our individual story is detrimental to the fabric of human life. On top of being a published author, Jamie was a very talented strategic communications and organizational development professional, having worked in the industry for over 20 years. She kept empowering those of Black communities at the forefront of her work. Jamie worked for Howard University, serving as the director of communications and development for their graduate school. She also served as an advisor for Revolt, which is a femme-identifying service organization that focuses on educating youth, enriching the community, and empowering women. Jamie earned her bachelor's degree in journalism and political science and her master's degree in public affairs and administration, both from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. When Jamie and I last spoke, she expressed interest in providing spiritual counsel for others. I think she already has. She is survived by a son and a host of loved ones, those who she influenced in so many ways, The list of those who miss her is fairly long. I personally would like to send my condolences, love, and support to everyone who misses Jamie. It is through your memories of her, the lessons she instilled in all of us, and her printed work that will ensure her legacy lives on today. I'd like to invite to the virtual stage my writing colleague and fellow Valley Society member, who is also a very dear and long-term personal friend of Jamie's, Opal Gayle.
Thank you, Nicole. That's a beautiful introduction. Jamie, as you know, she's left such big shoes to fill. She's done so much in her short life. Just very, gone too soon. Definitely gone too soon. So I met Jamie while we were both students in IUP. We say IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. We both were writers for the Pen, which is the college newspaper. It was a small, predominantly white town. It's actually known as the Christmas tree capital of the world. Go figure. But from the beginning, Jamie was very, very deliberate about students of color being seen and heard. And we she's gone as far as to contact Walmart. Imagine that. Walmart, Sally's beauty salon, all these different places in town, to make sure they were stocking their shelves with products, so that black girls could get our hair done instead of having to drive to Pittsburgh and drive to Philadelphia. And so it came as no surprise to us when she got her finished bachelor's, got her master's, and just hightailed it. So many people will tell you, I just graduated, packed my bag, and headed. That's what she did, just headed to the DMV area. And she was never afraid to use her voice. And so naturally, when she became the director of communications at Howard University, it was more duh. Like, what else was Jamie gonna do? What's next? The presidency, right? So all who follow her, if you follow Jamie on social media, if you've read her work, you will know that she was very transparent, never afraid to tell her story. And she uses her story, as Nicole says, as a spiritual guide to help others. So you have no choice. You just have to concur that she was about, she was about I can't. She was about giving her voice. She was about, being transparent. She was about fighting. We've been saying a lot this year, fighting the good fight, the emotional fight, the physical fight, the racial fight, just rolling up her sleeves and getting the hard work done. And so she is, I still can't believe that she's gone. I remember she had, her surgery, and she was doing well. She posted her pictures, and she's no longer with us, but I know that her memory continues, her fight continues in her son Cristiano, affectionately known as Kiddo to everyone who follows her, and her writing, some of which you will hear today. So rest in peace, Jamie. May your soul rest in eternal peace. And I would like to read a couple of her poems. The first poem I'm going to read is called Walls. And this is from her memoir, a poetic memoir, Many Pictures Crumbled. And I think A Deserved Soul was her publishing company. It was that she was working on, is called A Deserved Soul. So here goes Walls. If these walls could talk, you may want to get up and walk because the aches and pains lingers and stalks. If these walls could talk, they'd tell you about all my tears, how I flooded the room over many years. If these walls could talk, you would feel how my heart aches, all those times my life was at stake. If these walls could talk, they'd explain all my issues and express to you all my wishes. If these walls could talk, you'd know the times I curled up in bed and cried, how my heart shriveled up and died. If these walls could talk, they'd make you understand why I felt all alone, why at times my heart turned to stone. If these walls could talk, I might be greatly appreciated, and the love I gave might be reciprocated. If these walls could talk, would you really open your ear? Take the time to really hear? If these walls could talk, would you even understand? Would you reach out and hold my hand? If these walls could talk, would you stand by my side or would you want to run away and hide? If these walls could talk, we'd see eye to eye how the love I have for you soars so high. God, I wish these walls could talk. This next poem is called Magic Dragon. Magic Dragon. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. You used to love Peter, Paul, and Mary, that American folk group formed in the 60s. It makes sense as to why you used to love playing your acoustic guitar. I bet you used to imagine what it was like if you were to be on a stage. I think you used to be all about that folklore hippie life. You were birthed into a culturally transformative era, and I imagine you used to be a free spirit, hoping to have that freedom for the remainder of your life. You fit right in with the culture of your generation. It shaped you, maybe even damaged you. The drugs were trippy, but the people were revolutionary, rebels in your eyes. You were a small town country girl, daughter of a preacher and a mother that restricted you. You were proud of yourself for breaking free, running away, being who you wanted to be. That is until you got pregnant with me, so you used to say, Mom, the way you hug that guitar each time you sing, I noticed a mist in your eye. I know you missed that time of your life. At least the good times. And I felt bad. You used to make me think I was the reason you stopped living. So the least I could have done was sit by your feet, listen, and sing. And then the final poem I would like to read is dedicated to her maternal grandmother, Grandma Sowers. So, Grandma Sowers. In 2018, I had gotten news that my maternal grandmother passed away. I just spoke to her a couple days prior. Jamie, no matter what happens to me, please know that I love you and kiddo very much. You will always be my baby girl. I was her first-born grandchild. My grandfather and her took me under their wings at a very young age, and for that I am grateful. While I was always closer to my grandfather, me and my grandmother's relationship was uniquely complex and beautiful at the same time. We navigated through differences in religion, race, and sexual orientation, but she learned to step out of her belief system and create a new one so she could embrace the diversity of her children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren. Having love in her heart was important to her, and she always reassured that she loved us deep down. Hers. Grandma also entrusted me with some of her heart's deepest struggles and pains. I was able to provide an emotional safe space for her, but Grandma's heart was tired, and my spirit is at peace, knowing her heart is free and resting in a much more peaceful place. And now I would like to turn over to my fellow Valley Society member, founder of Valley Society, Christopher Spots.
I'm also going to be reading from Many Fixtures Crumbled, just 3 poems. Mask off. I laughed, I smiled, I danced all around. Then I went to my room and cried myself to sleep. I hoped, I wished, I prayed that one day I could take the mask off and it'd all be the same. The patio. You caught him, his head between my legs, fingers between my lips, in the kiddie swimming pool. Only thing that made you a little suspicious was that there was no laughter, no splashing of water, no fun in the sun. Yeah, you caught him. But the first thing you said, Jamie, what the hell are you doing? After that, I never looked at the patio or you the same again. Ember daydreams. I'm going to be honest. I thought about burning down the house. It was an old house that sat up on the hill, haunted by the past, but mainly the present. There was something soothing about those ember daydreams of mine. I'd lay in bed thinking how the fire would warm my family's hearts. If the house burned to the ground, we would have to start over, and maybe, just maybe, we would finally move to North Carolina for that good, sweet country life. I love traveling there every summer. As a teen, I fantasized about going to college at UNC and finding my country gentlemen. They loved us thick red bones down south. In any case, I know my dad would have been happy with his new well-paying job. I think he probably would have even ran for politics or helped his cousin expand his local country store. My sister would have stayed away from drugs. She wouldn't be suicidal and remained on a good path. My mom might have been happier sitting in the southern country breeze. She might have even pursued her dreams. Most importantly, she would have become the mother we needed her to be. But my fiery wishes never came true and became visions of the past. I realized that moving on to a new house would have only been filled with the same deadly poison. And truly, deep down, I was no arsonist. That's it.
And I am going to close us out with an essay that she wrote actually in 2016, but it's very relevant today. It was originally published July 2016 in Rags and Riches magazine. The essay, which is available on medium.com, Dear America, an open letter acknowledging white supremacy rules. Dear America, how are you? Not too well, huh? I don't blame you. In less than a month, our country seems to be heading toward another civil war. I wish I could say that this month's events were triggered solely by the deaths of Alton Sterling and Philanthrop Castile at the hands of law enforcement. And I wish I could say that the attack on law enforcement in Dallas and Baton Rouge was all due to a small group of people that have radical views. Hell, I wish it were as easy as gun law reform. I keep hearing blame being tossed back and forth among all groups involved. Acts against law enforcement are quickly deemed as hateful and heinous. Yet, we watch citizens of this country being executed by officers that have gotten a free pass by the fair and equal legal justice system. Not quite sure how America the Beautiful expects its people to react. Even though the Black Lives Matter movement is focusing on the attack on Blacks by those meant to serve and protect, our relationship with you is a bit more complicated. The real, deeply rooted core issue is white supremacy. Let's go back in history a bit. Do you remember a man by the name of Hector St. John de, I'm going to pronounce the last name incorrectly, Covecoeur? He was a Frenchman living in America in the years just before our revolution. He believed that the experience of confronting and taming the wilderness turned Europeans into a new race of people, Americans. He also felt that because Americans were a new kind of people, they needed to develop a new level of politics that fit to the new American way of life. Covecoeur became known for a series of writings called Letters from an American Farmer. In letter 3, written in 1782, he tries to define the new American race. What then is the American, this new man? He is an American who, leaving behind him all his ancient prejudices and manners, receives new ones from the new mode of life he has embraced, the new government he obeys, and the new rank he holds. He has become an American by being received in the broad lap of our great alma mater. Here, individuals are melted into a new race of man, whose labors and prosperity will one day cause great change in the world. Americans are the Western Pilgrims. Notice how non-whites weren't acknowledged as being a race. It was all about establishing white supremacy. This American thought was backed up recently at the RNC 2016 in Cleveland by Representative Steve King, Republican of Iowa. He asked on a panel during a panel discussion on MSNBC, quote, "This whole white people business, though, does get a little tired. I asked you to go back through history and figure out where all these contributions have been made by these other categories of people that you are talking about. Where did any other subgroup of people contribute more to civilization?" End quote. He tried to clean up his statement, but it only made his stance on white superiority crystal clear. Quote, "What I really said was Western civilization. And when you describe Western civilization, that could mean much of Western civilization happens to be Caucasians, but we should not apologize for our culture or our civilization." End quote. America, you haven't changed much, have you? White supremacy rules. So please stop trying to convince us that we will all one day be equal. According to you, non-whites are mere subgroups unworthy of any acknowledgement of our contributions to the building up of this so-called great nation. The superior white race stole land from its native citizens. Do we need to touch on slavery? America, you hold the blood, sweat, tears, and lives of every non-white ancestor that was forced into sowing your soil. They built this great Western civilization. They endured your brutality and inhumane treatment. But including non-whites was not part of your original formula. Time has shown us that over and over. Oh, what about the Emancipation Proclamation, you ask? We all know that it was a political move by Abraham Lincoln. Oh, Brown versus the Board of Education, you say? Yes, it awarded equal education on paper, but it did not get us the desegregation frame of mind. Oh, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, monumental milestone, yes, but have we really been able to properly implement these great laws to achieve true equality? The great leaders that were on the path of achieving equal rights were assassinated, organizations dismantled, future Black leaders placed in prison, chased off to live in other countries, or sold themselves out to the government as pawns, drugs planted in Black communities by covert agencies, community resources deprived, family structures dismantled. Oh yes, we can't forget about the election of President Barack Obama, another milestone toward racial equality, possibly. But I must ask, does him becoming president really say how much America, has come in terms of racial equality simply because of a group of white political power brokers found it necessary to position him for office? We are not wrong for believing that a non-white person taking this kind of office would finally take a stand for his subgroup. Unfortunately, we quickly found out that even a Black man with the highest elected position of power in America cannot freely speak against the deeply rooted injustices and racist views that are pumped through your veins. How is taking a neutral ground effective? Blacks are told to go vote, but the way you are set up, America, we are not permitted to have the kind of leadership that will evoke effective change. Speaking of change, we know there is some work we need to do within our own communities. No doubt that we need to unify more than ever. But is it really fair to put the entire burden on us? Look at what happened to Black Wall Street, not to mention this Willie Lynch mentality you have ingrained into our thought process. We need to learn that being Black does not have to mean we are inferior. Being Black doesn't mean we have to hate ourselves. The Black culture and many other non-white cultures is rooted in things like churches, schools, families. These are our own institutional structures that we need to try to strengthen. But let us not forget that these institutions were created for Blacks by Blacks, so we too could have a place in America. Neoliberalism affects our communities. America, how have you helped us restore hope? You have repeatedly degraded and devalued our lives. So, America, don't act surprised that in 2016, the people living in this country feel rebellious. The issues caused by strategically planned institutional racism and white supremacy has been in the pressure cooker for far too long. The pot has been whistling and the lid will blow much sooner than later. It's time to do some soul searching. Supreme White America. I would like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon to honor the work and life of Jamie A. Triplin. I would like to send you off with actually one more set of Jamie's words. For me, being comfortable and unafraid to live in your own authenticity is radical. Revolutionary people don't have to try so hard to be who they say they are. They exude it and live it effortlessly in their natural state. Thank you again for joining us today and for making Black authors matter. I am sending my condolences and love to everyone who has been impacted by this very tragic loss. Jamie Triplin, rest in peace, and may we see each other on the other side. Thank you.